Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 1 of the podcast for our project for this course. My project was involved with homeschooling in America, and I think I would like to back out and focus more generally for my podcast on education in America. So this first episode is going to be centered around myself, and it will just be me talking about kind of my experiences with education and what I've been through. And then as I move forward into other installments of the podcast, I want to kind of interview different people in my life who have experienced school in different ways at different times, whether it be my parents or maybe some friends or my siblings who are older or younger, and kind of get their take on the experiences that they've been through, and then more generally discuss the option of homeschooling, what they know and think currently about it, and maybe what I can show them that they're misconceiving about homeschooling as they think about it now, utilizing some of the research that I got for the research paper. So to first dive in and give some background, my name is Justin Fields. I am 20 years old, and I am currently in my third year of college. I graduated high school in 2016. To go back even further, I have attended 2 high schools. I began at Lincoln Way East in Mokina, Illinois, and my junior year transferred to a Texas public high school in the suburbs of Houston, Texas. And then I actually transferred back to Lincoln Way East to finish out my senior year. So I've experienced 2 different high schools where at that time I took dual enrollment courses through the local junior college, all the way starting freshman year of high school until I graduated. Following that, I went to Illinois Institute of Technology in downtown Chicago. I attended there for a semester before I dropped out because didn't really enjoy the major, and it was more work than I intended on completing, and sort of just didn't like the way that I was headed with school. So I stopped going to school there, moved back home, and switched to the junior college near my hometown, which is Joliet Junior College. I attended there for a year, and then I am now currently in my second year of general education studies here at Heartland. So after this year, I will be transferring to Florida Southern College, which is a private college in the heart of Florida, and will be studying marketing there. So I've had a very wide variety of experiences with schooling, ranging, as I mentioned, from going down the list, 2 public high schools, 2 junior colleges, 1 university, and then we'll be transferring to the second university I will have attended in the fall of 2019. So my overall outlook on what I've been through with schooling is that it is not designed the best. I've had a lot of trouble in high school with the overall environment, whether it be other children who aren't the nicest, or the school not really catering to children's needs the way they need to, the overall stress of the environment being way too much to handle. That compounded with sports and a social life is just way too much for children when they're in their prime developmental stage up until they graduate high school. On top of that, I've had troubles with grades on their own. When I transferred down to Texas my junior year for high school, the way that they treated grade point averages were entirely different than they treat them in Illinois, causing a lot of trouble in how they transferred my credits, which kind of revealed to me the way in which school is treated more of like a business than actually caring about your education. Same thing has happened now after transferring, going on my 3rd time in college. I've realized that the systems put in place to help students move back and forth between schools, although I have done it an excessive amount of times and more than many students will in their entire academic career, it is not designed to work smoothly or to help students as much as they possibly can. And in a lot of ways, credits are looked at as just money, and they don't value your education as much as they could. So in this way, starting with a high school education, I would definitely prefer the route of homeschooling. So to focus on what that could possibly mean, and utilize a little bit of my research from my paper, there are a lot of misconceptions on what exactly homeschooling is. So I'd like to first utilize the findings of Professor Joseph Murphy in his book Homeschooling in America, Capturing and Assessing the Movement. So in this book, he discusses the many ways in which homeschooling can be done, whether it's through prepackaged classes that are sold by a homeschooling institution where everything is heavily regulated and approved by boards of education before they're allowed to be sold as classes. There are also ways in which you can independently teach and then just have your children take standardized tests to keep up with the regulated curriculum. And then there are also ways in which you can utilize homeschooling programs and a local junior college to attain credits through that college rather than even having to homeschool in the traditional sense where you would be the one teaching your children. And I feel as if there's a lot of these options that are heavily unknown. I feel as if, for me personally, before going into a lot of this research, and I mentioned in my paper, I've helped my sister to actually be homeschooled. And before doing any of these things and looking more thoroughly into homeschooling, my outlook on it was also that homeschooling is just you pull your kids out of school, you teach them at home as best as you can. There isn't too much regulation, and it's not the smartest decision to do for your children's education. When in actuality, what I found is that's not true at all. There's ways in which there are huge benefits given to children who are homeschooled. For example, a lot of people would claim that there are social drawbacks to children being homeschooled, where they're not being put around other children and they're not allowed to socialize in ways that other children that go to public schools are able to, and in this way it hurts the social development of children. When in actuality, there are many ways in which homeschooling allows children to socialize in more advanced ways than children stuck in a school can do. There are a lot of groups of homeschooled children who will go do activities in public together, whether it's go to the park for lunch or go on field trips. And all of these things can be learning opportunities that aren't really possible to attain when you're in a classroom setting in a public school. So there are many positives to being homeschooled that kind of go against the typical outlook on homeschooling for people who don't really have any research that they've looked into in terms of homeschooling, what it actually entails. To focus more heavily on one of the options that I had discussed through the junior college, I think this is one that people should definitely look into if they haven't already. I know that a lot of high schools already offer dual enrollment courses through the junior college that is local to the high school, and this can allow children to kind of get college credits rolling for them on their transcripts while they're still in high school. And while this is a great program, even with my high school in Mokina, it seemed as if a lot of these classes were kind of dropping out with no real reason except for the fact that the college was catching on to the fact that, hey, if we're allowing these children to take the courses through the high school and get the credits, they don't need to take them through us anymore, and we're losing out on money. So they seem to roll back that option in a way that really is unfair. I feel as if rather than the modern education system in America moving forward, we're kind of repealing a lot of these options that were actually more advanced and unknown and making them not even available if you do find out about them. So if it is a possibility, which this is what I did with my sister, and I don't want to go into too much because I feel as if I'm most likely going to have her on as a guest for one of the other episodes, but if you can pull a child from high school and then through a homeschooling institution where they maintain your transcript for you when you send them course information and take standardized tests, you can take courses through a junior college as if you were a junior college student that had graduated high school and put your junior college credits on both your quote-unquote high school transcript that is made through this homeschooling institution, as well as be attaining these credits for your college transcripts as well. And in this way, you kind of cut out on that in-between step of, oh, I'm taking courses my junior, senior year of high school that I'm going to just retake as soon as I'm taking general education requirements in the first couple of years of college. So this goes back to what I was mentioning before about how it really becomes apparent the more you look into these options that the public education system is more of a business than it is something looking to educate the youth of America. And there are ways to get around this through the utilization of homeschooling and homeschooling institutions to make sure that you are getting the greatest benefit out of your time in the American education system, rather than just wasting more money than you need to, wasting time of your life retaking courses that you don't need to, and overall just having to deal with the negative social effects that also come with it, whether it be the bullying or the stresses or the other problems that are very prevalent in high schools, which I have talked about in my paper, so I also do not want to get too much into. But my overall point from this episode, just using my experiences, is that if I could go back and do schooling over with this research having been done, I definitely would take a different route than I already have with my education. And I feel as if it would have put me a lot further ahead of where I am now in terms of my education, and at the same time save me money, stress, and a lot of energy. So moving forward with other episodes, I hope to get in touch with a couple other people who have varying viewpoints and experiences with education, and to kind of touch on their opinions, maybe talk to them a little bit about homeschooling in general and what it entails, as I've talked about here, and cite some more research to make sure that it's clear to them, and then get their opinions on what they think about their own education, the education of others, and the overall standpoint of where we are in this country with the way our education system works. Thanks for listening.